Spaceship has landed, and that is true logic. Alright, there's a significant problem of man that is presented in the ASAP Rocky Sweden situation. Alright, firstly, let's provide a brief recap of the events leading to ASAP Rocky's arrest. On June 30th, ASAP Rocky, his security, and members of his entourage were walking down a street in downtown Stockholm. Right? They were approached by two men that proceeded to verbally harass them and attempt to provoke a physical conflict. Right? This can be palpably seen on a video that ASAP Rocky posted to his Instagram. Right? ASAP Rocky and members of his entourage can be heard repeatedly politely asking the two young men to leave them alone. In fact, they even walked in opposite directions in blocks in order to further avoid an altercation. However, the men refused to leave them alone, and then one of them assaulted ASAP Rocky's security guard with a pair of headphones, right? Though, even after that, the entire entourage remains calm and poised. However, this poise eventually turned into a full-blown fight in which ASAP Rocky can be seen throwing one of the two men to the ground, and he is subsequently beaten up by the entire group, right? Therefore, the Swedish police decided to detain ASAP Rocky and two of his friends, being David Whispers Jr., Vladimir Cornel. Okay, and neither of those sound like the names of black guys. David Whispers, Vladimir. What other black guy do you know who's named Vladimir? Anyways, like, okay. Rocky has had to cancel all of his July shows due to his current detention, right? Also, there are reports that he is living in horrendous conditions, which include solitary confinement. He is being held without any charges currently, which is unfair. This is going on the third week of his incarceration in Sweden without any charges in solitary confinement, right? This is unjust. Besides, the video posted on Rocky's Instagram clearly demonstrates that his actions were entirely in self-defense, right? The two individuals followed ASAP and his team and assaulted one of them in an entirely unprovoked attack. Besides, if ASAP was arrested for the assault, then why weren't the other two men arrested also for their role in harassing and assaulting them with the headphones, right? Something that is, again, clearly visible on camera, right? The popular Migos rapper, Quavo, said that he was also harassed and nearly arrested in Sweden, right? Which would make one think it would seem that the Swedish police share the same racist attitude that US police officers share, right? Okay, but we're not talking about the police today. We're talking about the two men that harassed ASAP Rocky and what makes them loser-ass individuals, right? This highlights a critical issue with bitch niggas, right? Which is their tendency to be jealous of others and start shit due to their own personal weaknesses, right? And limitations. Case in point, the legendary Ghetto Boys rapper, Willie D, made a poignant statement on his recent Vlad TV interview, right? He stated that it's sucker niggas, only sucker niggas, who start conflicts because they have not fully considered the cost and risk, right? All conflicts have cost and risk, right? And if you're willing to accept these, then you should, if you're not willing to accept these, then you should not engage in conflict with others, right? This is very true, simple logic, right? If you don't want that smoke, nigga, don't start the fire, you know? All right. Beyond, even if you are willing to accept the consequences, that does not entail that being an instigator of vacuous conflicts with others is not a bitch thing to do, right? Unnecessary conflict should be avoided because, again, there will be a significant cost. The resulting conflict could lead to a loss of life, and/or serious injuries, property damage, right? And that's only the material costs. We have to also take into account the psychological and emotional cost of conflict, right? Only someone who's a loser and weak-minded individual with nothing to lose to begin with would casually start a conflict in the manner that these two Swedish individuals started the fight with ASAP Rocky and his entourage, right? If you harass and then physically assault someone to the extent that it evokes a violent response, then why should the responder be held legally or morally accountable, right? Individuals should be penalized for starting conflicts rather than supported for being victims of conflicts they themselves initiated, right? Furthermore, how totally lame are the two individuals that got beaten up, man? Like, not only are they weak haters and suckers for creating a conflict for no reason, but they were doing nothing with their lives, clearly. ASAP Rocky did not go to Sweden in order to have a random street fight in downtown Stockholm with two strangers, right? He went to perform, to support his fans, to handle business, etc., right? He was focused on living his best life, right? What were the two male individuals that attacked his entourage focused on? Nothing, right? In the video, the determination with which they follow ASAP Rocky and his entourage indicates that these two individuals clearly had nothing better to do than to harass Rocky and his crew, right? Which is super pathetic when you think about it, right? They say idle minds are given things to do by the devil, right? Or so they say, right? You know, and we're not going to get into whether or not the devil is real and so forth, but there is truth to this statement, and it applies perfectly to the ASAP Rocky Sweden situation, right? The two individuals attacking ASAP Rocky are losers because they, having nothing to do, forced an unnecessary conflict that they subsequently brutally lost, right? Like, seriously, is there nothing better to do in Sweden than get your ass beat? Apparently not. Apparently not, right? Furthermore, the actions of these two men demonstrate how simple-minded and lame they truly are, right? Instead of finding a plethora of other non-harassing things to do with their day, right? They chose to bother ASAP Rocky and his entourage, right? And they certainly bit off more than they could chew, and they were devoured by Rocky and his team, right? As I've said, this type of behavior is typically most common in bitch niggas, right? Real niggas do not start random conflicts for clout, okay? Let me say that again. Real niggas do not start random conflicts for clout, right? Rather, they work towards genuine personal growth and development through constant practice, right? And they seek to uplift the people around them and to do the same, right? This is a prodigious issue for men across cultural, ethnic, and religious barriers. Men who are essentially space fillers, insofar as the only thing they truly contribute to the world is their sheer existence as living entities, right? They fill space in the human world and make sounds through language, yet they do not occupy any space with positive energy and subsequently create a negative atmosphere around themselves. These types of individuals are usually weak insofar as they have become victims of their own cognitive and psychological limitations, right? They become victims as opposed to actors, right? Doers, true accomplishers. Hence, this is what truly makes them losers, right? Their persistent entertainment of their own egos and most base thoughts, desires, beliefs, etc., right? Beyond, these types of men suffer a double-fold disadvantage. Their lack of understanding, their lack of self-control, self-awareness, also makes them vulnerable to domination from the external world, right? Society totally dictates their interests and pursuits. These kind of men may have ambitions for money and gains, but have no actual purpose or vision therein, right? Having complacently accepted their lesser selves without introspection, they have not developed the skills and understanding needed to properly analyze themselves and thus comprehend their own motivations, right? Thus, when addressed with substantive questions of life and personhood, they give generic and/or entirely false responses, right? These lesser men blindly pursue whatever values, accomplishments, fields, etc. that society places upon them, right? However, their lack of courage for self-awareness and internal growth and development creates a shroud that ironically prevents them from seeing the proper path towards what it is that they think they want, right? So the lesser man is typically incapable of achieving even his generic goals for that reason, right? Yet he will never have the courage to look within and accept personal responsibility, right? Instead, his internal issues manifest outwardly as jealousy towards the courageous souls brave enough to become true persons, right? He shuns their accomplishments. He envies their possessions and lifestyles. He speaks ill of the doers, right? This is what he does, right? I put that in quotes, does, right? He talks of what others do, right? That's what he does, right? And what do I mean by true person? Well, individuality does not and necessarily cannot derive from group identity, right? One's group identity is the social categorical placement of an individual based on some generic characteristic that is also shared by others, such as political affiliation, religious preference, sexual orientation, and so forth, right? These are all broad general characteristics that can apply to anybody, right? However, individuality is based by definition on the unique traits of a person, right? Numerous people can also be gay, because gay is a broad category referring to a standard quality that numerous people can share, right? So homosexuality is not a true characteristic of individuality, all right? Though, let us not confuse the conversation at this point to say that homosexuals cannot be individuals. That's not the argument being made here, right? However, one becomes an individual by following a path of their own, right? The great Roman philosopher Seneca echoed similar thoughts in this quote here. Nothing, therefore, is more important that we should not, like sheep, follow the flock that has gone before us and proceed not whither we ought, but whither the rest are going. Now, nothing gets us into greater troubles than our own subservience to common rumor, and our habit of thinking that things that are best, which are generally received as such, of taking many counterfeits for truly good things, and of living not by reason, but by imitation of others. And this is from his work titled On the Happy Life, right? What the Roman philosopher Seneca is describing here is the importance of choosing the path that is best for you, as opposed to what general society said you should choose, right? How does this apply to this A$AP Rocky context, right? Well, the individuals who attacked A$AP Rocky and his entourage were clearly like clout chasing or something, right? Definitely the dudes that attacked Future's bodyguard were clearly clout chasing, right? Because they were bragging about it on their Instagrams and shit, or whatever social media they posted it to, right? Total lames, right? And clout chasers, by definition, are only looking for approval from others, right? Hence why they commonly post their charades to Instagram and other social media, right? Yet, this is the exact opposite of the path that the Roman philosopher Seneca is describing in his writing, right? We are all born with a path that is predetermined for us, that is based on pre-established socio-economic conditions and political factors, right? Depending on your parents and their socio-economic background, there are certain basic things all people in society share, right? attending school, right? Attending sporting events. We share interests in musical entertainment, getting married, getting a job, etc., right? These are fundamental aspects of society that all people share. Those sort of social categories that we are all told to pursue, right? Now, whether or not we recognize it, most of us have a choice between the path outlined by society and creating a path for ourselves, right? The exceptions here are individuals born with certain physical conditions that prevent them from functioning effectively enough to perform the tasks associated with creating a life for oneself, such as mental illness, physical ailments, birth defects, etc., right? However, right, for all normally functioning individuals, right, they desire to self-fulfill, right? The desire to self-fulfill is an inherent part of human beings. It's as inherent as breathing oxygen, right? So at some point in everyone's life, they question the choices society has presented to them, right? Is this the right career for me? Should I pursue a college degree, etc.? These are questions that individuals are likely to ask themselves at some point in life, right? At the moment of this question, the part of us that is born free, the primordial self that is only the pure instinct of survival and self-preservation, calls to our higher consciousness and roars to us to throw away the chains of social limitations and create a world anew. Now, the German philosopher Martin Heidegger talks about this call in his work, Being in Time, right? And here's a quote from that work. Dasein fails to hear itself and listens to the they. And this listening gets broken by the call, if that call, in accordance with its character as call, arouses another kind of hearing, which, in relation to the hearing that is lost, has a character in every way opposite, right? If this lost hearing is numbed by the noise of the manifold ambiguity of everyday new idle talk, the call must call silently, unambiguously, with no foothold for curiosity, right? The call is the inner primordial voice telling us to choose a path of individuality and authenticity as opposed to generic social living, right? Therefore, one error of the social media culture is that it emphasizes this noise, which is the everyday garrulous chatter of common society, right? Cowards are those that hear their call and choose not to heed. Losers are those that cannot even hear the call to begin with because they are filled with making noise. Those individuals who attacked A$AP Rocky and his entourage are the same as those who attacked Future's bodyguard, right? They're all just a bunch of losers making noise, right? Like the white noise of an old television screen, right? But the noise is substantive and they've accomplished nothing, right? But wasting energy, right? And that is true logic. Spaceship is blasting off. Bah.